Hello everyone. In honor of National Stroke Awareness Month, I wanted to share my mom's story as it relates to dealing with strokes. So my mom had her first stroke in 2004. This was something that we were not familiar with. I remember being in middle school and her basically saying that her right side was numb. I believe it was her right side at that time. We brushed it off a bit and just thought that maybe she has fallen asleep on her arm. We went back to sleep, woke up a little later, and it was the same thing. So I went and told my aunt, and we wound up going to the hospital. That was when we were introduced to stroke or a stroke. My mom had stayed in the hospital for a week, and then she came home. My mom is amazing because after having her first stroke, she actually wound up going to work the week she got out the hospital. So from that point, she would start taking Plavix or blood thinners and aspirin to deal with the stroke. We didn't get an explanation as to why. We just knew she had a stroke. That would be the first of 5. My mom would then have a stroke in 2007 or 2008, 2009, 12, 13, I believe, and then her last would be a brain bleed in 2014. We are in 2021 and she has not had a stroke since then. However, after the 5th stroke is when we started to really see the effects of it. So this is where her mobility would be affected. She would have to use a cane and then eventually a wheelchair for help. She would also have to take more medications to try to prevent her from having another stroke. So whether that was something that dealt with her cholesterol, something that dealt with being a blood thinner, high blood pressure medication, all these different medications contributed or were to work together to prevent another stroke. It was the 5th one that would have its biggest effect on her, where she would not be able to work anymore. Interestingly enough, we never knew why she would continue to have strokes. We were never given any information as to why she kept having strokes, but they would come every couple of years. As you can imagine, that would be very frustrating because you're not being told why. You know, I know she has high blood pressure. I know she was dealing with high cholesterol at the time, but there was no explanation as to why she kept having strokes. So here we are, 2021. She goes to the doctor, a kidney doctor as a matter of fact, and we delved a little bit into her history. This is where we would find out that her having high blood pressure when she was a child, 10 or 11, being put on medication as a child, stopping her medication at some point, and then taking it again once she became pregnant, would contribute to her having strokes later in life. So after my mom had these many strokes, it is then in 2021 that we found out that her high blood pressure was associated with the strokes. So we have been spending time. I've been trying to do some research to find holistic ways of getting her blood pressure under control. Her diabetes is pretty much under control, and so we've been trying to do, in addition to her medication, some holistic ways of dealing with those different ailments to be able to help her and prevent further strokes. Thank God she has not had any more strokes. And so what I would say to anyone who has had a stroke or who has had a family member who has had a stroke, is important that you advocate for yourself and for your family member. We're talking about 2002, we're in 2021, almost 20 years not knowing why my mom was having strokes. There was no warning signs, there was nothing like that. Number two, what I would say is get help as soon as possible. Learn the signs and symptoms of stroke. And I'll be sure to link it and add it to this video. Be sure you know the signs, because when you know the signs and you intervene sooner, that can lead to yourself or your family member recuperating quicker. The other thing I would say is, when my mom had her first stroke, they did not give her physical therapy. That to me is the biggest mistake. When you have a stroke, be sure to get physical therapy. Even if there may not be huge deficiencies, try to get physical therapy to deal with some of the things that you may have experienced. So, for example, my mom, she didn't get physical therapy for almost any of her strokes. And as a result, now we're doing exercise to try to increase her mobility, to increase her range of motion. We're doing this at home. We're getting acupuncture. We're doing other holistic things to help in her mobility. However, her cap on her mobility is limited. Why? Because she did not get physical therapy for pretty much any of her other strokes. May have been one other, but that was one of the main things that she did not receive, and one of the main things that I would truly push for. So again, physical therapy, know the signs so that you can, so that there can be an intervention if you got to get to the hospital or whatever it may be, that is done as soon as possible. I beg of you, please, because it could mean the difference between not only life and death, but also how fast you or your loved one recuperates. So, with that being said, I would say to you, best wishes to you, to all of you who may have experienced a stroke. Know that you can live through this, you can get beyond this. And I would definitely say advocate, learn as much as you can as it relates to stroke awareness, stroke prevention. So all of our high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, we gotta take care of ourselves, our diet, our stress levels. All of these different things contribute to stroke health. So definitely I would say those are my big pointers, my big takeaways. I am so thankful that after 5 strokes, my mom is still alive. Yes, she has some deficiencies with her memory because, of course, the stroke is affecting the brain, so it's affecting different parts of the brain. She's still able to walk. She uses a cane or a walker, but she's still able to walk. She's still able to speak. There is a slurring to her speech now, but she's still able to speak. And her memory, she has long-term memory, but her short-term memory has been affected. So understand that there may be effects on personality, on memory, on language, on mobility. There are so many different areas of the body that a stroke can affect. Even those who haven't experienced strokes, it comes out of nowhere in many cases. So I would say to everyone, educate yourself, advocate when necessary, do your research so that you will be able to effectively advocate, that you'll know the language when it's spoken in a hospital room. So those are some of the tips that I would give to you. And I say to you, best wishes and have a great day.